So, welcome to another episode of the School of Noble Thoughts show today. And I have got guests with me, Bridgetti Lim Banda. She is an Amazon International best-selling author, talk show host, and executive producer at Be Live Media. Now, Be Live Media live streams to LinkedIn, YouTube, Amazon Live, Facebook, and Twitter. She specializes in helping authors and entrepreneurs globally humanize their brands through professional live streaming and live shopping experiences. Brigitte is passionate about purposeful storytelling, creating platforms for global conversations that inspire change and amplify voices around the world. Apart from this, she is an Amazon live influencer. She lives her prosperous, successful life in Cape Town, South Africa. So please welcome the one and only one, Bridgetti Lim Banda. Hi, Bridgetti. Good to see you after a
Hi,
long time today.
thank you for
And thank you
inviting
for
me.
accepting my request to come up as guest today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to talk to you and be on your show.
Yeah, it's all my pleasure and honor. Thank you for that. And I remember Brigitte very vividly. It was the year 2021, and the COVID was at its peak with severely devastating effect globally. I mean, you don't want to remember those days, do you? But it happened. And especially in India, I remember when you came to my aid on my first request to you and to create a global live event which would be which would help me to fundraise for the charity organization that was very active in India at that time called Help Save India. And India was burning at that time. And I vividly remember how, on my first request to you, you went in and came up and supported me with my this endeavor. And ever since that time, throughout my entrepreneurial journey, you have been a profound source of inspiration and illumination for me personally, Brigitte. I mean, that's how I look at you with your success journey. So, tell us more about your journey, how, where, when it all started for you. Basic education, family, schooling, if you would.
Sure. And thank you for the opportunity to share a bit of my background and my life. I had a fairly traditional education, and I think I was born a maverick.
You were born in
I was born being a maverick, always wanting to uh,
a
test
maverick. Okay,
this
right.
and do things out of the norm. I remember as a child, before I think I was in sub A as we called it at that time, and I wanted to figure out how a light bulb worked. And my foray into electronics at that time was taking two wires, attaching it to a light bulb and putting it into the socket. I'm sure you can, I'm sure you know how that ended.
Yeah.
But my curiosity was satisfied, and I've always done things that way. Um, I'm not scared of trying new things. Um, I will tell you myself that I do not love reading textbooks. I find it exceptionally boring. I'm a tactile learner. And so when it came to my career as a live streamer, producing live video and becoming a talk show host, I literally must have watched thousands of people do interviews, learned the technology, um, learned how to formulate questions for interviews, learned how to do the research. So, all of
So were
this
you
was an
were sorry,
evolution.
right. So you were born in Cape Town yourself?
Yes, I was born in Cape Town. I lived through, if you know anything about South Africa, you also know that apartheid was legislated in South Africa.
Right.
And so I lived through that period. I lived through the change. And thank goodness we don't live there anymore.
Yes. So, okay, so you were born there and your parents
My parents are
uh,
both South African, yes.
yeah. So basically, what was your dad? What was his profession? What did he do in life for living?
My dad was in the textile industry,
Okay.
and and he was also ahead of his time because he learned, he started as a machinist and he worked his way up to where he was also very keen on technology,
Okay.
and was one of the first workers here that was sent to Germany to learn how to program these textile machines. Now, of course, the
Right.
textile industry is completely dead. Everything's imported from China. But
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I think I probably inherited my curiosity for life and learning things from my dad.
And
Uh,
he was originally from where? Which country?
my father is originally from Cape Town. Both my parents are from Cape Town. We've got a very diverse cultural heritage, but my
Right.
parents were born in Cape Town in South
So
Africa.
is Banda what? Where does it belong to? This surname
Okay,
Banda.
so that's my married name.
Okay, got it.
Lim
Got
Banda is my married name.
it.
Uh,
Right.
my my late in-laws were medical doctors, and they were Chinese Filipino,
Right.
and that is where the Lim Banda comes from.
Right. Right. And your mom was also a professional or stay-home wife?
Now, my mom is a very traditional homemaker. I think, you know, people back then um, was usually the thing to do. Most women, not all women, but most women were homemakers, and my mom was a traditional homemaker. So my curiosity came from my dad.
From your dad. And you were many siblings?
Yes, I am the eldest of five
Okay.
siblings. I have three brothers and one sister.
Then they're all living in South Africa or nearby to you or scattered
Yes,
around the world?
they're all in South Africa. My husband's family, though, is scattered all over the world.
Right.
So we don't get to see them that that much. But thank goodness for technology. Thank you for, videos and being able to keep in touch via social media.
You're good in that. So that helps you. Yeah, I assume with your passion for technology and the videography and all
Absolutely.
that what is media, that's a
I
great
remember,
blessing for you.
yeah. I mean, when my mom-in-law was ill, and that's over 20 years ago, and she had cancer, and we were trying to keep in touch with the family remotely. And I was telling somebody the other day, things were so different back then because we were writing actual handwritten letters
Yeah.
to keep in touch with the family and let them know how she was doing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how you used to do, right?
yes, and then we had fax technology. So, it was either a long written snail mail letter or fax. Now things are completely different.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's a different world, and we are heading for another change now. I mean, in the coming, I mean, if I'll speak to you after 10 years, we would be living in a different, absolutely technologically, the way the AI, machine learning, and all this is changing the
Yeah,
whole concept about it. So basically, you had that growth thing within yourself, you had the passion to do. I mean, your mom was a housewife, father was inclined towards the technology, as you said. Although he was from the textile industry, but you did get it from your dad's side, that
I did.
inclination towards the passion. So when did you feel the first go at it in your life? Like, do you remember? When was it
I beg,
that?
I beg your pardon. Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So when was it in your childhood, or maybe it could be at the later years, when you felt that passion that you have to, get into something with technology? And I'm not saying about media only. I mean, you had the inclination for the technology. So when did you feel that in your life the first time?
That happened really early on in my second um, job that I had after graduating was working with the Cape Town Chamber of Commerce, and that had a profound effect on the rest of my life because it gave
Sorry, I
me.
missed on that. What did you work with?
I worked at the Cape Town Chamber of Commerce,
Okay, all right. That's
and
that's 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 an administrative job, right? That's a managerial job, basically, isn't it?
well, at the Chamber of Commerce,
Right.
I started off as a receptionist, and then I
Okay.
got involved in because the Chamber of Commerce, in order to keep in touch with its members, it would send out a
Yeah.
weekly newsletter to
Right.
inform them of what was happening and how they could do business. And so I got involved in helping with the newsletter. And
Okay.
eventually I was typing it out on an actual typewriter because
You
that's what
were.
at the time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, as a receptionist, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And, with the Chamber of Commerce being at the forefront of basically technology and everything, to do with business, um,
Yes.
I think we were one of the first to have access to a fax machine. We had a telex machine, um, and we had one of those. Um, what did they call those computers at the time that had took up a whole cupboard?
Oh yeah, the big ones, yeah, from where it all
Yes,
started.
one
So
of
the
the one of
processors, yeah, big processors. Yeah,
one
I
of
mean,
one of
yeah, yes, I remember that, right? Yeah.
yeah. And then when the desktop became available, we got one, and they sent me on a course to learn a typesetting program so that I could do the Cape Town Chamber of Commerce weekly newsletter.
Right.
And and I remember the director saying to me, how long will it take you to learn this? I said, no, 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 I've got this. And I had just finished my course. It was a program called Ventura, in desktop publishing.
Right.
And without having too much time to practice anything directly after the course, I decided I'm going to just dive in and do the Chamber of Commerce newsletter using Ventura on my brand new desktop machine. And
And
if I
you
if I
you and you knew the learning and all. You knew the languages. Did you
think
go? Did you learn that basic and Fortran and all that?
it was an amazing journey being able to learn how to use a computer. The shift from a typewriter to computer was
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it must be a
yeah,
big thing, isn't it?
significant.
Yeah.
huge. It was a jump. But I've
Mm.
never looked back since that initial time when I put my feet into the water
Computer
of
world.
into the digital waters.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop learning. And what I learned at the Chamber of Commerce was, my love for desktop publishing was developed there.
Mm.
My typesetting skills was developed there, and my love for it, um, which still stands me in good stead today, when it comes to using social media, putting
Yeah.
together my my shows now. A lot of those principles have not changed over the years. Technology have changed, but the
Right.
principles that you learn, basically, typesetting principles are the same over the years. They haven't really changed.
Which year
Um,
was this, Brigitte? Do you remember?
Back
Should be
in
90, 90,
19,
94, 95.
no, that was before then. It was roughly 1984,
Is
85.
it? Is it 80s?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So we are going long time back then. I mean, the 80s, it was, I mean, internet had not come in that time.
And I remember um the director having meetings with his international counterparts, and they kept talking about this information superhighway that is coming.
Right. Yeah.
And
I
there was
know.
huge anticipation for the internet, for the superhighway. We had no idea what it was, of course, back then.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I remember, I think I mean, I got my hands onto internet, I think in 1996, first time. I mean, that's when we had that dial up internet connection through the telephone line, and then came the ASDN, then came the broadbands, and then then kept on growing. But
our
that's
generation
how, yeah,
lived through a very exciting period because we literally lived through the birth and the evolution of all these different technologies.
we have, yeah, we have, and especially, so you got your first kick at the technology at that time.
Correct.
So what did you do after that? I mean, how long did you work in the Chamber of Commerce?
I worked for the Cape Town Chamber of Commerce for 5 years.
Okay.
Um, and it also, we hosted many trade missions from all over the world. And
Yes.
so um, it gave me an opportunity to meet people from around the globe that I may not otherwise have had. Um,
True.
and I think from there, my love for working with communities really was born.
Okay.
I developed a thirst for getting to know people from different cultures, because those 5 years at the Chamber
So
of
you were
Commerce
you you you
gave me
were
a
you were
glimpse.
traveling, yeah? You were traveling a lot.
No, it's not that I was traveling, it's we hosted in at the Chamber of Commerce, we
Ah,
hosted
okay. You
trade
hosted
missions,
the events, right?
international
Right.
trade missions.
So people were coming from all over the world, and you were intermingling with them, getting you. So this we are talking already of 90s, is it? Or
Yeah.
it's
So
90s, yeah?
this was yeah, from mid
Early
80s,
90s. You said 5 years, so should
early
be
90s.
early
Yeah,
90s somewhere.
correct. Correct.
What did
Yeah.
you do after that?
After that, I started my own business, doing
Is this the one? I mean,
doing this
or
doing
it was
this
little. Okay, I
doing
mean
desktop
this
publishing.
I think you started later on.
Yeah, I did desktop publishing, and then I started my family. I took some time out. I was determined. I wanted to be a full-time mom for a couple of years,
Oh, really?
and
Okay,
and then I did some ad hoc work for the Chamber of Commerce again, and so
gotcha.
on and off. I took on various projects over the years. And then I eventually joined my husband. Um, we saw a gap um, for students who were graduating from university, and we were curious as to why they were not um, being gainfully employed in technology when that was all
Right.
training. We wanted to investigate that, so we started an initiative of working with universities, local universities, international universities, um, and businesses. So we set up various forums and we actually called it was called the CIO Forum. So we were meeting with CIOs, um, universities, and just finding out where the disconnect was between the two. And we did that for a great many years, until I I live with invisible disabilities, and then my health challenges became too much for me, to the point where my mobility was impacted and I could no longer travel as freely as I wanted to. And while I
What
was
was
waiting,
that? I mean, did you undergo any medical conditions or what? What happened? What was that?
I do. So I have fibromyalgia, which I think most people understand, but what most people don't know is that there's also various degrees of fibromyalgia. You could have level 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then I also have Durkheim's disease, and I have lipedema. And all of these together with my back, I've had a neck fusion and a lower back fusion, and all of those things have impacted my mobility. And while I was waiting for my next surgery, the technology to live stream was being born, developed. And since I could no longer travel so well and my mobility was impacted, I started looking at this, investigating this technology, and I realized, but I could still do what I enjoy doing, which is community work, if I could learn this technology. And the learning curve was a lot steeper than I imagined, but I don't give up.
Yeah, I can see that.
When I set my mind to something, um, I'm pretty determined to learn it. And so it's been a 10-year journey, but I've really enjoyed every every bit of it. I have gotten to know more people from around the globe. I've had amazing opportunities, which I'm very, very, very thankful for. Early on in my live streaming journey, I don't know if you heard about the Cape Town water crisis, because that was global news.
Right.
Um, and so that was fairly early in my live streaming journey still. Um, and talking to people, I realized that water does become weaponized very easily. And I saw that happening. And I realized that I could use my voice and my skills to help people make more informed decisions about water. Um, I didn't know too much about water other than my perspective as a water user,
Yeah.
but I realized that if I could convince experts in the field to talk to me, to share their knowledge with the broader public on a platform that was not politicized, that was completely neutral, and that was purely educational, then I could be of service. And so I approached these water professionals, and to my surprise, they said yes. Of course, I was completely bowled over and grateful, because I learned a great deal from them. And they have since started the South African Water Chamber.
Okay.
and I still work with them.
Wow.
I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot about water, about living in a water constrained country, how to, people often don't, people sometimes say, I don't use a lot of water, but there's a lot of hidden water in the things that we eat and consume and wear that we may not have been aware of. I didn't know that. It was a very, very educational journey.
Right. So
And
I'm just curious. Sorry, I'll interrupt you. I'm just curious. We are talking of 15, 2015, 2010. Which year is that?
um,
You said 10 years
you know,
back you started this company, media, right?
yes, but the water crisis was about six 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Right. So all of your media journey when you launched this company, it is about 10 years or so.
Yes.
Yeah. So what were you doing in between that period when you found that medical catastrophic situation which came on you, right, in your life? But you said, I'm not going to give it up. I will do something and I will do, I mean, this is not going to hold me back and I will take some other action. So, what did you do in that period of time from 2010 till the time you launched this media company and from the time you found about your medical conditions? So, what did you
Well,
do in
I,
between?
I've lived with the medical conditions all my life. It's just that they progressed to the point where it impacted my mobility.
Okay. So you had them in the
Correct.
childhood also, yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so basically I took off a couple of years to raise my two sons. Um,
Right. So you've got
then
two sons, yeah?
I have two sons, and then I
Lovely.
joined, and two grandchildren now, which I'm very proud of.
Wow. So good, yeah?
And once I'd sort of raised my boys, I joined my husband into this venture of helping university graduates find employment in technology.
So
Uh,
did you raise your two sons alone or with your husband? Was it a jointly
my husband,
parenting? Joint
my
parenting? Right. And your husband was also from technology industry?
my husband is a software developer. Yes,
He's a software developer. Okay.
he's a software architect actually.
Software architect. Lovely. So, I mean, that must be a huge thing, right? I mean, you inclined to technology and your husband in the software architect. That was a
Yes,
big thing those years. In 90s and early 2000s, software architect was like a king, I would say. Isn't it? I mean, that time architects were rare. I mean, do you agree with that?
yeah, absolutely. But I think it's been nice working in technology and being able to do some work with my husband. I'm not a programmer. I don't aspire to be a programmer. It's not my field.
Right.
Um,
But you're just passionate about it. Yeah,
correct.
you are the true, full-heartedly fan of technology. What I can see from you.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right. Got it. So, and the before I mean, I ask you the next question. Are your sons also into technology?
Yes, my youngest son is a programmer,
He's a
and
programmer.
my eldest son um is an electrical engineer. So I guess to a certain extent his work also does involve some level of programming, but he's an electrical engineer.
Got it. And they live in also in South Africa.
Yes, yes.
They also
Thankfully, they're both in South Africa.
good. Yeah, and close by. Okay, so you started the media company in 2000. Do you remember the year you started it?
It's 10 years now. It's exactly 10 years ago.
Exactly 10 years.
Yeah, exactly
So
10 years.
2015.
That's correct.
Yeah. And what were the experiences which you remember during this period of 10 years?
It was
Particularly, I mean, as a successful content creator, as a talk show host, as an author. I mean, you have had a journey in 10 years, right?
it
So
was very interesting because the technology was just starting to evolve. We had Periscope. I don't know if you're familiar with Periscope.
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
Periscope was the first opportunity we had to become citizen journalists, if you wish, and to use video, and that was on our phones. And
Okay.
gradually,
So it was a startup.
from our days with Periscope, the technology started developing slowly over the years.
Right.
Um, and I remember, when I first started and I learned to live stream from my computer. I had a very old computer, a very old um, camera, digital, camera to live stream with. I was using the built-in microphone on my laptop at the time. And so I always say to people, if you want to get into live streaming and becoming a talk show host, start with what you have. People always feel they have to buy all the fancy gadgets and invest in cameras, expensive microphones and things. What I have now is things that I've accumulated and built up over years, over time. I started with a very low end camera, a very low end microphone, and I gradually acquired better equipment over the years. It was a process. So, it's not this big bang thing where you have to go and make this huge investment. And,
Right.
talking about technology, our mobile phones have come a long way.
Oh,
You know,
yes, definitely. I mean, you
you
have
can
everything right now on the phone. It's a
correct.
mobile studio with you, right?
Yes. So if you have um, a smartphone, you can do virtually a full-on broadcast from
Yeah,
your smartphone. I know that there are people who don't even use their laptop for their broadcast. They use their phone because you can. Software and the
right.
technology is now available to do that, you know.
True.
So you don't need a lot of stuff. You just need a good
Yeah,
connection to solid internet connection,
yeah,
uh, and off you go. So it really doesn't take much to learn.
right. Any particular experiences, anything during these 10 years which you remember so vividly, which you would like to, which just gives you, that excitement about your whole journey of these 10 years as a media expert? Do you
You
remember
know,
anything like that?
one of the first things I did was I connected with 6 women globally. One was in Australia, one was in the UK, and 3 were in the United States, and I'm in
Okay,
South Africa. So you can imagine those were all, different time zones. And
right,
we wanted to host a talk show together. So trying to coordinate that across so many different time zones was quite an interesting thing. So what we ended up doing was it was I think it was 1 p.m. my time. The lady in Australia, I think it was 11 p.m. in the evening for her.
right,
And the ladies in the United States, I think it was 8 a.m. or something like that for them in the morning. And we did this for over a year. Um, and I think that was my first experience that helped me gain my on-camera confidence.
right.
Because when you first start out, and for a long time after you first start, even seasoned people will tell you that they suffer from something called imposter syndrome.
You do, yeah.
Um, and that is something
A
I
big
just
way, a big way. You do it big way. I mean, I have been a huge victim of, I mean, till to date. I mean, I've got list of people I want to speak to, like yourselves. It's just the imposter syndrome doesn't give you, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll give him a call tomorrow. So it's very, very common thing you're saying. Yeah, it's a huge trouble. It's a huge problem.
you know one thing I learned very, very early in my career from the days of the Chamber of Commerce is that the worst thing can happen is for somebody to say no. That's the absolute worst thing that can happen.
Rejections, yeah,
You know, how bad is that?
true.
It just means that you have an opportunity to ask someone else.
Yeah,
Um, you know, so one door closes, another opens. Life happens, and somebody may say no today,
right.
but they
Yeah,
may but they may well say yes tomorrow. So if somebody says no to an interview now, don't let that hold you back from asking them again.
true.
And more often than not, I think we talk ourselves out of things. You may say, well, the person will never say no to me. You're trying to respond on behalf of someone else. You won't really know the answer until you actually ask them. Um,
Exactly.
I think um, I think I don't even know if I've had any no's over the years. Virtually every single person I've asked for an interview has granted me an interview.
Oh yes, you. I mean, you're a professional now. You see, so I could imagine anybody rejecting you at the first place. I mean, although there are cases, but most of the cases you are like, I don't know, you are a professional in your industry now, Brigitte. So yeah, I mean, it has to be really, really a stupid, I must say, person who has to say no to you, right? In my opinion, because I mean, it's like you are the real, real, real deal in this.
I do want to share something with you. The when I was covering the Cape Town water crisis, I learned something from that experience. I was still fairly new into my journey into live streaming. But this was a topic that people were passionate about. People wanted to know how to make informed choices about
Right.
water. Um, and before I knew it, I was being contacted by BBC, CNN, the national television in Canada, in Australia, in Spain,
Yes. From all
um,
over.
for interviews.
Yes.
Um, and it taught me that if I could do that, anybody could. If you had the passion, you could do this because the tools are available. So if you out there and you are passionate about a
True.
topic, go ahead
Yeah.
and
I
do it.
mean, yeah,
Don't.
yeah. So that was the kindling moment for you. I think that was the kindling, the motivation, the inspiration, what you got. And you found that this is something which anybody can do that, and why not to, teach the other people. And that's what you're doing 10 years into it and helping as a media expert. Uh, what is the future? What do you see for yourself?
Um, I am not going to stop anytime anytime
So,
soon.
okay.
Live streaming is still evolving.
Oh,
It's
definitely. Big
it's
way.
a tool for change. And for me, that means helping more authors, more entrepreneurs repurpose the interviews into high quality evergreen content that drives engagement and sales, helping people humanize their brands, helping people hold conversations that build trust. And so I want to continue, collaborating with thought leaders. And I think something that I still would like to aspire to do. My husband's done a TED talk, but I think that is on my bucket list, is to be able to do a TED talk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is for media. I think you should be doing that because media industry is very strong on TikTok. How much I have, although I don't use TikTok at all, and
No,
I
I meant
don't.
no, I said TED, sorry, not TikTok. A TED talk.
Oh, TED Talks. All right, okay. But you have had TED shows, didn't you?
No, I haven't. So that's
Oh,
on the
you
that's
didn't have, yeah. Okay,
no,
so
that,
okay,
that
right,
that's on
right.
my bucket list. And I do want to, my plan is to do more about invisible disabilities, giving that more of a voice, because it's something that I'm passionate about. I wasn't ready to be vocal about it before, because it was something so deeply personal for me. But I am at a point now where I do want to become or do more advocacy for people who live with invisible disabilities.
Right. And why not? I mean, why not? It's a very, very valid, logical reasoning you have for that. And you have the resources, touch wood, today.
Yeah,
And you have the knowledge and you have the technology. So you have got all the things in place. I mean, you must be doing that, right? Great. So you see a great future for yourself as a media expert, and you are looking forward to all these changes with the AI and machine learning and all that, which will be implemented into your industry, isn't it? The coming
ab-
years.
absolutely. And I think, like, as most people, initially when I heard about AI, I was very suspicious about it. I didn't know much about it, but it's
Same
also
here. Same
it,
here.
it's
Yeah.
also been a journey. I've learned a lot about it, and now I use it. It really makes my everyday life a lot
Much
easier.
easier. Much easier.
I use it to help me do things much faster than I
Definitely.
than I could
Definitely.
do it myself.
I mean, you
Uh,
are using these chat GPT and all. I mean, you have in your hand the whole solution to anything in the world right now, right? You don't know anything, just go there and it will give you an answer. So we are
yeah,
living in a fantastic, marvelous world today, I must say, right? I mean, who could think of that
it's been
25,
quite
30?
a journey over the years, and I aim to never stop learning.
You are. Bridgetti, what will be your, I mean, I know we are running short on time with you. I mean, you have that. I remember you wrote to me, so I'll try to stick within the parameters of the time, not to make it, stressful. What are the key topmost tips that you would recommend for the listeners of our conversation today that you keep yourself, at the top of your head as, the most important things in your life? I mean,
Um, I
maybe
think
five of them or three of them or four of them.
I think I've got five that I'd like to share. And the first one is understand your why, know your why.
Know your
And
why. Okay.
yeah. And if you understand your why, it will anchor you when things get hard because life happens. You know, life happens to all of us. And so when
Right.
things are difficult, your why will help you to push through those difficult moments. And they are just moments. You know, sometimes when we're in the middle of a challenge, it feels like it's never going to end, but
Right.
it will. Everything that happens is just a moment or a season. And then number two is be authentic. People
Authentic.
don't connect to perfection. None of us are perfect. So
True.
if you aspire to perfection, you're setting yourself up for failure. So just be yourself.
Be authentic.
Um, and then my third one would be consistent.
Be
Uh,
consistent. Okay.
Show up, you know, show up constantly and consistently. And it doesn't have to be big things, just small steps to create momentum, but be consistent at whatever you do. Don't make people wonder what is it that you're passionate about. You know, choose your lane, stay in that lane, and be consistent.
True.
And then my fourth one would be of service to people, don't sell to people. Nobody wants to be sold. You know, people can smell that a mile away. I
True.
don't like to be sold to. You know, if somebody comes at me and they're trying to sell something to me in their first conversation or first interaction, it's very off-putting, you know.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's like, yeah, it's embarrassing.
yeah, so create value, you know, create a personal relationship with someone first.
True.
Um, don't be salesy. It's very off-putting. And then I think the fifth one for me is adapt with grace, because I think I've mentioned it before. Life happens, and life has happened to me in full measures many times over,
You bet
where
it.
I
Yeah.
had to adapt. You know, right? Life doesn't always go to plan. We can have plans, but life doesn't
It
work
doesn't happen like
that
that.
way. But we can choose to grow through those experiences. Um,
Right.
so my fifth one is adapt with grace. Um, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up when things don't work out as you hoped it would.
True. Yeah, these were the powerful bullet points. I'm going to put them into the episode, into the show notes, and good points, good, really powerful points. I'll have to rethink on few of them. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
Brigitte, one of the ritual we have here at the School of Noble Thoughts show is that we have a question left over from the previous guest who leaves it for the upcoming guest I have here. And the last question, which was asked by my previous guest to you, was he's an English marathon runner, world record holder, Guinness Book of World Records. And his question was, what is your favorite British rock band Queen track, if you have, and why?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, so what is your favorite British rock band Queen? You know Queen, right?
Yes, yes.
Right? So what is his favorite track if you enjoy Queen at all, and why is that track you'll enjoy that? Do you like Queen, by the way?
Yes, yes, yes.
Freddie Mercury.
Let me quickly think.
Yeah, I put you into your
Uh,
thinking process now, away from your medias.
so I The Queen tracks I remember off the bat is I Want to Break Free.
Right. That was a big hit, yeah.
Um, that was a big one because it says so much in just a few words.
Why do you like it?
Yes, yes.
And why? What was the reason? Do you have any why for that?
I think my why for that would be I haven't, you know, I think what right at the beginning of the interview, I said to you, I have a maverick nature. I like to explore. I don't like to be held back. And so when I put my mind to
That
something,
correlates to your
um,
character, right?
nothing and no one's going to hold me back
True.
from figuring it out or learning
Yeah,
it.
that song was a huge thing. It was such a big inspiration for so many people, right?
So breaking free from
Yeah, whatever it is, right? Whatever it
whatever
is
it is.
for you.
Yeah,
You want to get out of that.
yeah.
Yeah, got it. What would be one question you would like to leave for the next upcoming guest I would have for Bill?
Uh, hmm. I think my question would be if you could interview anyone, past or present, who would it be?
If you could interview,
Anyone, past or present, who would it be?
okay, who would it be? That's a lovely question. So correlates to your media industry. It's in your blood, Bridgetti. It's in your blood. Asking questions. Love it. Love it. Before we close this beautiful conversation with you, Bridgetti, today, and thank you for that,
Pleasure.
I have the last question for you. If it would be your last day in this world today, what would be your parting advice to the world in one sentence?
Do not forget your creator.
Do not forget your creator. Powerful, powerful.
Those would be my parting words.
Appreciate you, Bridgetti. Thank you so much for coming in. Anything else which I have probably forgotten to touch, to talk about, and you would like to discuss before we wrap up this show?
Um, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I think maybe if I could say to people, to people out there who live with invisible disabilities, I think I would want to leave them a message and say, um, you know, speak up. There's no shame in living with an invisible disability. Um, if you need support, reach out to someone. Do not suffer in silence. Um, especially if you're dealing with a mental health challenge. I think at the time in which we live now, that is huge. And especially our young people live with incredible challenges that we didn't have many years ago. And I see a lot of parents who are concerned about the mental health of their children, or they get caught off guard because they didn't realize their children were living with mental health
Teachers.
challenges, you know.
Right.
Um, Sadly, one of the really awful things that have come with online life is bullying. Um, and as adults, we can struggle with that.
Yeah.
I myself was a victim of online bullying. And that was hard. And so my heart goes out to all the young people out there. And I want to say to them, if you are being bullied, speak to someone you trust. Don't try and deal with it yourself. Help is out there.
I think
Um,
that's a powerful message. That's a powerful message, and I'll be putting across all your links to your media, to your profile, to your Facebook. Any other particular social media you would like me to add on to apart from what I have got? Do share with me. Yeah.
I will share with you, I
Yeah,
think my
all the links, and we will put
main,
that up.
the, Facebook was one of my main channels for many, many years.
Right.
But as things go, technology changes, and Facebook's had many changes over the years. And most people now are leaning more towards YouTube and LinkedIn as their main um, channels,
Right.
social media distribution. And so moving forward, that is going to be more of a focus for me as well.
Got it. All right, Bridgetti, thank you so much. And thank you for giving me time today. And it was so good to see you after so many years. And always a big fan of yours. Keep doing the great job you're doing. Keep moving forward, and talk to you soon.
Stop, and thank you very much.
Take care.